The death of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey, a young beauty queen, remains one of the most heartbreaking and mysterious cases in American history. Her murder shocked the entire world and left investigators searching for answers for nearly 3 decades. But now, thanks to new advances in DNA technology, there is hope that the mystery may finally be solved. Unfortunately, the truth might not be what many people were expecting or hoping for. New evidence has come to light, and those who have followed the case closely believe that police are just one step away from closing it for good. Still, the question remains: will justice finally be served, and what really happened on that tragic night? The story begins in December 1996, when the Ramsey family's holiday celebrations turned into a nightmare. On December 26th, 6-year-old JonBenet was found dead in the basement of her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. Her body showed terrifying signs of violence. A garrote, a strangulation device made from a broken paintbrush, was found around her neck. The autopsy later revealed a fractured skull, suggesting she suffered blunt force trauma before her death. Adding to the mystery was a handwritten ransom note discovered inside the house. The note demanded $118,000 for her safe return, an oddly specific amount that matched a recent bonus her father had received at work. But despite the letter claiming JonBenet had been kidnapped, her body was inside the basement the entire time. Her father, John Ramsey, eventually found her and carried her upstairs in tears. While his grief seemed genuine, his decision to move the body caused suspicions and raised questions about whether he had unintentionally disturbed crucial evidence. From the very beginning, the case was filled with bizarre details. There were no clear signs of forced entry, and the ransom note appeared staged. The crime scene itself was poorly secured by police, and as the investigation unfolded, the media became heavily involved, turning the Ramsey family into the primary suspects in the public's eyes. For years, many believed either John, his wife Patsy, or even their young son Burke might have been involved. But in 2003, investigators discovered something that changed the direction of the case. Using improved DNA testing, they extracted traces of male DNA from JonBenet's underwear. This DNA did not match any member of the Ramsey family and was uploaded into the FBI's CODIS database, but no match was found. 5 years later, in 2008, the Boulder District Attorney officially cleared the Ramsey family of any involvement, citing the DNA evidence. This was a huge turning point, as it suggested an unknown intruder had been inside the house that night. Over the years, more unknown male DNA was also found on other pieces of evidence, including the garrote and the blanket that JonBenet's body was partially wrapped in. These discoveries strongly indicated that someone outside the family had been in direct contact with her. Still, the killer's identity remained hidden because of the limitations of the technology at that time. Now, nearly 30 years later, science may finally provide the answers that were once impossible to find. Forensic genetic genealogy, a revolutionary technique that combines traditional DNA profiling with genealogy databases, has given investigators a powerful new tool. This is the same method that was used in 2018 to identify the Golden State Killer, decades after his crimes. By cross-referencing DNA from crime scenes with data from consumer ancestry sites, investigators can trace relatives of an unknown suspect and eventually identify them. This breakthrough has given new hope that JonBenet's case may finally be solved. The DNA samples collected years ago could now be re-examined with this advanced method, possibly revealing the killer's identity after all these years. Still, with every new piece of information comes new questions about what really happened that night, why such a cruel act was committed, and whether justice can finally be delivered after so long. JonBenet's father, John Ramsey, has been urging the police for years to retest the key pieces of evidence from his daughter's murder using the newest DNA technology. He has specifically mentioned the ransom note, the garrote, the flashlight, and JonBenet's underwear, saying that with today's advanced labs, these items could produce genealogy-ready DNA profiles that might finally identify the killer. According to the Ramsey family, the police already have everything they need to solve the case. It's just a matter of using the right tools. In January 2025, John Ramsey personally met with Boulder Police Chief Stephen Redfern and a genetic genealogy expert for about 90 minutes to discuss how this modern testing could be applied. Chief Redfern, along with other officials, showed openness to working with the FBI and independent labs, signaling a stronger commitment to finally solving the case after nearly 3 decades. John Ramsey has also pointed out that genealogical DNA testing has a 60 to 70% chance of pointing investigators toward the right person, which makes him confident that answers are within reach. Even with this progress, there have been challenges. Over the years, investigators hesitated to move forward because of concerns about evidence contamination, which slowed down the case. However, new leadership, updated testing protocols, and growing public pressure, fueled in part by documentaries that revisited the case, are now pushing authorities to act. JonBenet's older half-brother, John Andrew Ramsey, has also stepped up, expressing strong confidence that the case can and will be solved. He said that volunteers still work on the case every day, driven by their belief that justice will eventually come. In a recent interview, John Andrew opened up about how much the family has suffered, not only from JonBenet's death but also from other tragedies. Their mother, Patsy, battled stage 4 cancer, and years earlier, their sister Beth died in a car accident. When JonBenet was murdered, the unimaginable grief was made even worse by the fact that much of the public, and even investigators, believed the family was involved. John Andrew recalled the painful experience, saying, "We lost our sister and our daughter. We were victims, and the very people we thought would protect us were pointing the finger at us. We were just regular people, and suddenly our world was turned upside down." 4 years, the family lived under suspicion until the 2008 DNA evidence finally cleared them. Now, more than 28 years later, both John and John Andrew believe the technology exists to find the real killer. What remains, they say, is the need for law enforcement to fully commit, retest the evidence, and bring the right suspect to justice using modern forensic science. Both John and John Andrew Ramsey remain united in their belief that the police already have the critical DNA and evidence needed to solve JonBenet's murder. They insist that law enforcement must act decisively and make full use of modern technology. But what about JonBenet's other brother, Burke Ramsey, who for years was at the center of suspicion? After almost 3 decades of silence, Burke finally broke his silence in a 3-part interview on Dr. Phil. It was his first public statement since the 1996 tragedy. He had refused all other interviews and even turned down offers from Netflix and other documentary producers. When asked why he chose to finally speak, Burke explained, "If the story is going to be told, I want to tell it. I don't want people talking about me. I'd rather tell my own story." His words showed his desire to reclaim control of the narrative after years of speculation and media scrutiny. In the interview, Burke strongly denied hurting his sister in any way, countering rumors that had spread in the media when the case first broke. His answer was firm. Absolutely not. He recalled that on the morning of the tragedy, he stayed in his room, thinking JonBenet was just hiding. He also talked about how terrifying it was to face police interrogations as a 9-year-old child. He admitted that he smiled at odd moments during questioning, which investigators mistook as suspicious behavior. Burke clarified that it wasn't guilt. It was simply a nervous reaction to fear and discomfort. Dr. Phil pressed him on details, playing never-before-aired audio from the 911 call and asking why he stayed in bed while chaos unfolded downstairs. Burke shared the devastating moment he realized his sister was gone forever. He also offered his own theory about what really happened. According to him, JonBenet was the victim of a pageant-obsessed predator or pedophile, not anyone in the family. He said he believed the latest DNA evidence would finally prove this and bring the case to a close. Looking back, one of the strangest elements of the case was how heavily investigators focused on the Ramsey parents as suspects. Police zeroed in on them largely because there were no signs of forced entry. The ransom note was written on paper from the house, and it oddly mentioned the same amount as John Ramsey's recent bonus. This narrow focus caused investigators to overlook other possible leads, especially the likelihood of an intruder, stalker, or obsessed fan. The evidence itself tells a different story. JonBenet had first been struck with a heavy object that fractured her skull before being strangled with a garrote. Many experts argue that it is highly unlikely her parents would have carried out such a cruel and complex attack, especially over something trivial like bedwetting. In fact, filmmaker Joe Berlinger, who produced Cold Case, JonBenet Ramsey said, "If anyone thinks a mother would have the knowledge or presence of mind to create such a torturous death for her daughter, I'm sorry, it's just not plausible." At one point, prosecutors nearly brought charges against John and Patsy Ramsey for child endangerment and accessory to murder, but District Attorney Alex Hunter declined, citing insufficient evidence. Then, in 2008, advanced DNA testing revealed the presence of an unknown male's DNA on multiple pieces of evidence, which finally cleared the family of any involvement. Today, nearly 29 years later, with forensic genealogy and advanced testing methods, investigators are closer than ever to finding the real killer. The Ramsey family continues to push for justice, believing that the truth is finally within reach. Former District Attorney Mary Lacey eventually cleared the Ramsey family, saying they were victims of a crime and not the people behind it. She criticized the police for ignoring important evidence that pointed away from the family because they were too focused on proving the Ramseys were guilty. By 2013, investigators began to openly admit that the strongest possibility was an intruder. They recognized signs of an unknown man being inside the house and revealed that over 1,600 people had been looked at as possible suspects. This included local burglars, registered sex offenders, and people connected to JonBenet's beauty pageants. Unfortunately, much of this line of investigation had been delayed because, in the beginning, all attention was on the family. Aside from suspecting the parents, investigators also placed suspicion on Burke Ramsey, JonBenet's 9-year-old brother at the time. While Burke was officially ruled out and DA Alex Hunter confirmed he had never been considered a suspect, many people, including the media, continued to believe otherwise. In 2016, CBS aired a docuseries called The Case of JonBenet Ramsey, where their experts suggested that Burke may have accidentally struck his sister with a flashlight after a fight over pineapple. They claimed this blow fatally injured her, and they used examples such as a past incident where Burke hit JonBenet with a golf club, his fingerprints on a bowl of pineapple and a teacup, and the fact that undigested pineapple was found in her stomach. They also pointed to his nervous smiles during police questioning as suspicious. Burke and his family strongly denied these claims. In response, Burke filed a defamation lawsuit against CBS and pathologist Werner Spitz, which ended in confidential settlements. Speaking out, Burke said, "You won't find any evidence because that's not what happened." On Dr. Phil, he insisted that a pageant-obsessed intruder was responsible for his sister's murder. Still, the Burke did it theory continues to divide opinions. Some argue that he was too young to strangle his sister after hitting her, while others believe he could have done it and that his parents staged the crime scene to protect him. Another huge problem with the case was how badly the crime scene was handled. When police first arrived, they secured only JonBenet's bedroom, leaving the rest of the house open. Family, friends, and investigators moved around freely, touching evidence, cleaning surfaces, and even moving JonBenet's body from the basement to upstairs. Her father, John, carried her himself instead of leaving the discovery to the officers. The basement, where her body was found, was overlooked for hours after the 911 call. Investigators also failed to bring in crime scene dogs or seal off the entire property properly. The investigation happened right during Christmas, when the police department was understaffed and unprepared, which created confusion and mistakes. Former police chief Mark Beckner later admitted that these early errors ruined the case and sent investigators down the wrong path. To this day, some of the most important items of evidence, including the garrote, the ransom note, the rope, and the flashlight, have not undergone modern forensic testing. Some of these items may even have been misplaced or lost altogether. One of the biggest mysteries remains the ransom note itself. The 3-page note, found by Patsy Ramsey on Christmas morning, demanded $118,000, exactly the same as John Ramsey's bonus that year. It was written on paper from inside the home with Patsy's pen. These details immediately raised suspicion that whoever wrote the note had intimate knowledge of the family.